twice a year. The only thing that we found out, it's really interesting because the only thing we know is that Triple H promises wrestling fans that we haven't seen the last of The Undertaker. He said that at the 2012 Slammy Awards. So is that an indication that sometime between now and WrestleMania 29, hopefully not too late, I'm hoping he shows up somewhere between a month and a half prior to WrestleMania to give the storyline credibility and time to really be hyped up and become so unpredictable like previous Undertaker matches, especially with how infamous and how much emphasis has been placed on the streak and how important it is to The Undertaker. It's the only thing The Undertaker is believed to have to hold on in professional wrestling, and that's the only time he comes around all the time for WrestleMania, is to defend this prestigious streak. With how much emphasis has been given to this streak, he is really deserving of having a credible storyline with a worthy opponent, and with how good the previous 4 years have been for The Undertaker at WrestleMania, solidifying his legacy with victories over Shawn Michaels for the first time ever in his career after that epic series from the late 90s, and getting victories over Triple H year after year at WrestleMania. I think it was really great seeing The Undertaker wrestling better than he ever did in the last 4 WrestleManias, and I really want to see an opponent, if not Triple H, that will give The Undertaker that kind of match. There is a rumor that if CM Punk loses the WWE Championship to The Rock and doesn't headline WrestleMania as champion for the first time in his career in the main event, that he will be the one who steps in and fills the void and challenges The Undertaker. But with how good CM Punk is, I don't think that CM Punk, even with how good he is, will be able to perform at the same level as The Undertaker. The Undertaker needs to be in a ring with the legend. A legend that can perform at his level, not someone like CM Punk or Sheamus. Even with how good these superstars have gotten so early in their careers and with how many accolades and honors they have achieved, I don't think that promoting a match between The Undertaker or CM Punk would be nearly as effective as promoting Triple H versus The Undertaker, or Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, or Randy Orton versus The Undertaker. There is a rumor also that if John Cena doesn't face The Rock, which is highly unlikely, he will challenge The Undertaker the night after the Royal Rumble, after he actually wins the Royal Rumble and denies the opportunity, turns it down kind of facing the WWE or World Champion. And instead, because he won the Royal Rumble, he believes that he has deserved the right to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That is highly unlikely. So really the only other opponent that I can throw at you for The Undertaker besides Triple H or Shawn Michaels making a unexpected return to the ring would be CM Punk, coming off one of the longest WWE Championship runs of the last 25 years. That's a quarter of a century. Very impressive championship reign for CM Punk, and that's the only contributing factor that I can see allowing him to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29, and that's really the only thing CM Punk has going for him to get a match with The Undertaker or Austin in at some point at WrestleMania. Even if it wasn't the WrestleMania main event, I think that would be the defining moment of CM Punk's career. He's previously wrestled against The Undertaker in 2008, 2009 for the World Championship, where CM Punk had his reign as World Champion brought to an end courtesy of The Undertaker. So there is a chance there are a few contributing factors that could contribute to another opponent for The Undertaker. But with how good the last 4 years have been for The Undertaker, almost a half of a decade, do you really want to jeopardize his emphasis on his streak, his WrestleMania legacy, by putting him in a ring against a new talent initiative superstar? I would love to see a match between The Undertaker or Sheamus, or The Undertaker or CM Punk, but I want to see those matches in programs that are done specifically for Raw and SmackDown, not just for WrestleMania, because it seems to have become all about WrestleMania for The Undertaker in the last 5 to 6 years. I hate that. That's one of the things that detests me about The Undertaker. The Undertaker should be a legend who represents the company and live up to what Triple H believes him to be, and that's good for business. And he truly is good for business. He could be the one legend that no new talent initiative superstar was able to get one over on, not able to defeat. That could be the guy that could represent the professional wrestling business for at least the next 5 to 10 years, because The Undertaker is still performing at a level he performed at in the early 90s when he first arrived in 1990-1991 as part of the $1 Million Man Survivor Series team. Since then, The Undertaker's win-loss record has been truly definitive, and it's really been outstanding, and it's probably one of the biggest contributions, if not the ultimate contribution of The Undertaker to professional wrestling. So many people have been fallen to The Undertaker over the last 20 years, and he's virtually beaten everybody in his professional wrestling career. They may have gotten one over on The Undertaker at some point during the program, but it was very rare that you would see a superstar get the better of The Undertaker. The only one who's really been able to get one over on The Undertaker over the last number of years has been Kane because of their extensive history. No other superstar has been able to dominate The Undertaker in an impressive way such as Kane, and The Undertaker has always come out on top in all of the storylines he's been involved in because of his ability to get inside the minds of his opponents and how he can play these psychological mind games and the effect that the psychological mind games have on every opponent The Undertaker's faced throughout his 20-year career in professional wrestling, somewhere between 20 and 21 years. I truly believe that The Undertaker does have a psychological effect on every opponent that he faces, because if you just look at the facial expressions, how intimidated the superstars feel when standing across from The Undertaker inside of the ring, especially the new talent initiative superstars. If you've ever paid attention to professional wrestling and look at the facial expressions and the face-to-face confrontations that happen prior to matches or even before the first grapple takes place in matches, that is when you can tell if there's an intimidating factor between these two superstars. And I think that's one of the biggest contributing factors to how dominant The Undertaker has been, along with just how long he has been in the professional wrestling business. Prior to coming to the WWE, he was known in such names as Mean Mark Callis and the Skyscraper in WCW, and even then he was very definitive and very intimidating. No superstar has ever been more intimidating to The Undertaker in his entire professional wrestling career. The Undertaker's always had that definitive advantage that has led him to victories over some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. And you're talking about a guy who has defeated everyone from Hulk Hogan to the Ultimate Warrior. He has faced every definitive legend in professional wrestling, and at some point, even though those legends very rarely get one over on The Undertaker, Vader, Kane, some of the rare legends, Shawn Michaels, who have been able to do it, The Undertaker always comes away with the final victory, and he's always a part of that definitive climax that every storyline involving him has come to at some point. So really, who else can you put in the ring with The Undertaker? Who else besides Kane, which is a WrestleMania match that I truly believe needs to happen probably even more than this one? Who else can you put inside of the ring with The Undertaker at WrestleMania? With their history, Brock Lesnar's another choice, but Brock Lesnar sent an interesting tout this past summer where he vowed never to return to the WWE because he proclaimed himself the Lord and the Master of both the UFC and professional wrestling, and he didn't have a desire to come back to professional wrestling after defeating Triple H and conquering everything. Referring to himself as the Lord and the Master of the WWE was a real tease for an Undertaker match at some point, even before WrestleMania. And I'm surprised we are up to the 6-month mark now of Brock Lesnar's absence in professional wrestling since defeating Triple H at SummerSlam. The storyline between himself and Triple H is not even finished, but there still is a chance with the referencing of him being the Lord and the Master of the WWE by Paul Heyman. The biggest thing that came from Brock Lesnar's post-SummerSlam promo, which you can see on our Twitter, and the tout is also up there at Jonathan Clarke 1. I do recommend those video tweets for you to check out because they will really put into perspective for you how crucial a match between The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar could be. But with how good the match was with The Undertaker and Triple H last year, I mean, a fourth and final encounter could determine who the definitive superstar is, with how decorative both their careers have been. Both their win-loss records are incredible, and how many championships they have won, along with all the accolades from Royal Rumble wins to every single championship, speaking from Triple H's perspective, with The Undertaker still having to win some singles championships. There's really no need for The Undertaker to win. I can't see The Undertaker winning the Intercontinental Championship at this point in his career, because that's one of the most unbeneficiary things you could have The Undertaker come into retirement really to win. The also interesting thing about The Undertaker's career is he's described as being a retired superstar who makes minimal appearances under Legends contract. I believe The Undertaker is still an active superstar, and it was reported a while back, and I actually archived this in our news center, that The Undertaker was believed to continue wrestling until he was physically unable to perform as he did back in the early 90s when he was really in his prime. I think that is what it's going to come to for The Undertaker. He's not going to have a Ric Flair type deal for himself where he's going to keep wrestling until he dies. I just think The Undertaker is going to wrestle at a minimal amount of appearances every year until he's physically unable to do it. I do hope that that rumor of The Undertaker returning full-time sometime between now and WrestleMania to finish up the reunion rumors of the Brothers of Destruction or any unfinished business The Undertaker had left behind him in 2010 when he had that rivalry with Kane, a old school reenactment of the 1997-1998 feud from the Attitude Era, which was one of the definitive rivalries of that era. I do hope at some point we do see The Undertaker come back full-time. I would love that. That would be very beneficiary to the ratings, but right now I just don't think The Undertaker wants to be a part of the professional wrestling business on a consistent basis. He's really one of the only legends you have left, so I guess Triple H's perspective on The Undertaker is one that's going to hold to be true of him being good for business. He could be that one legend that no new talent initiative superstar is able to get one over on. There is so much that you can do with a superstar like The Undertaker, and I'm glad the company realizes the potential that lies within the soul of The Undertaker. The Undertaker's had so many memorable WrestleMania matches over the last 20 years. He's faced everyone from Jimmy Snuka to Jake the Snake Roberts. But what match do you believe that The Undertaker's had over his 20 victories at WrestleMania is the definitive match of The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak? There's been so much emphasis on The Undertaker streak, especially over the last 4 years, but what match defines The Undertaker's legacy at WrestleMania for you? Over the past few months, our Twitter account has been taking a look back at The Undertaker and Triple H series over the past number of years at WrestleMania, and there have been so many critical moments in that rivalry, and with how good last year's match was, I think the fourth and final encounter could go a long way in determining who is the dominant and superior superstar. I opened up the show earlier by saying that if superiority were to be defined, the series between The Undertaker and Triple H could go a long way in determining which superstar was the far more superior athlete and the most decorated. Both superstars are so decorated and so honored by professional wrestling that it's incredible. And these three matches we have seen going back as far as WrestleMania 17 have been so good, there really could be another match that could determine who is the definitive superstar and the one final legend left in professional wrestling. We have seen so many legends come and